Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Mom Mode. Today, we have Brittany Johnson on the podcast. And if you don't know her as Brittany Johnson, you may know her as Hillside Highland on Instagram. And so I'm just so excited to have you here, Brittany. I was telling Brittany before we were recording that my husband and I follow her Instagram. We absolutely love to see what the ranch life is all about. And so thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, for those who don't know you, can you just share a little bit about yourself and what life is like?
Sure. So I am a mom of three, and our page kind of started from a place of heartbreak when we started the ranch after my dad had passed away. And then it's kind of blossomed into just this journey to moving from Western Washington to Eastern Washington to kind of going from a little bit of a backyard ranch life into a full-fledged ranch. So we just love sharing our journey and how we got here and hoping to inspire other people kind of along the way.
Yeah, well, you're definitely inspiring. I feel like so many. Like I said, my husband and I absolutely love watching everything that you post. I mean, you post from ranch life to homemade recipes, and just like motherhood and like living that ranch life with your children, with your husband. I absolutely love it. So, with your dad passing, so was your dad a rancher originally?
No, so
No.
we have 0 farm and ranch background whatsoever, and
Okay.
so I think that's where there's a little bit of a draw, is people are kind of like, "Wait, how did you do that? Like, can you please give me the steps?" And while
Yeah.
I wish I could just give an exact step-by-step guide. I think the main message that we try and share is just having the courage to try something new and then
Yeah.
little by little making your way towards it. And I know it's so hard because it's not something that everybody can just jump into, and so I really try and understand that we kind of come from a little bit of a different perspective. I mean, we both had full-time jobs, we worked for the same company, and then my husband bought me a heifer for Mother's Day, and then a week later, we bought a bull calf, and we were both kind of like, "What are we doing?" I don't know, we just had this draw towards immersing ourselves in nature and being outside and working with our hands and doing that sort of thing. I think that was the initial thought process in trying to find a way towards healing. And then
Okay.
really just snowballed into where we are today because we truly loved it so much, but we knew literally nothing. So we had to be humble enough to ask what
Yeah,
were perceived as like the stupid questions at the time, you know?
definitely.
I think when you are in that really early stage, sometimes I wish that you could, like, bottle that emotion up and just kind of re-energize yourself sometimes with it, because when you're brand new at something, there is nothing that feels like you can't figure it out sometimes. Like, there's bits and pieces of doubt for sure, but then there's also
Mhm.
this like, naive approach where you're like, "Oh, I wanna learn everything there is about this." So you just are so almost laser focused, whereas now I feel a little bit like now you kind of question a little bit more because there's more on the line, whereas when you first start, you only have a couple animals, you're just kind of, like, muddling through like the duck on the water, right? Like, you might look calm
Yeah.
underneath, you are really pedaling to try and figure it out. And
Mhm.
so we're big on whatever it is, whether it's ranching or whether you wanna be a better cook or whether you wanna be whatever. Just immersing yourself in that and just giving yourself the liberty to learn and not feel like you're asking the silly questions or, you know, I think that
Yeah.
some really cool opportunities that have been kind of presented from this whole thing, but yeah, I mean, we literally started with 1 heifer and 0 knowledge and probably jumped in with 2 feet in the deep end and made lots of mistakes along the way, but it's really kind of come into this really unique experience that we wouldn't have had otherwise unless we just went for it.
Yeah, and that's just like part of the journey, I feel too. Like
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, what's the beautiful moments without the hard moments?
For
So you guys had lived, you said in Western, or was it Eastern or Western?
so
Western.
I grew up in Western Washington. My dad had a trucking company there.
Okay.
I had zero intention of working for my dad, like 0. And I went to college for child life psychology. I got my degree, and then that's where I met my husband, was in California at college. And, we both played on the sports teams, and I actually got hurt, and he's a couple years older than me, so I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna hang my cleats up. This is not for me anymore." And so when he graduated, I begged him to move back to Washington with me. And so he moved back with me. He kind of started looking for jobs in finance. That's what he majored in. And it wasn't really panning out. So my dad said, "Hey, just work here for a little bit until you get your footing." And so he did, and then I finished college at the University of Washington, and then I started working for my dad a little bit. There was a period of time where he asked me, "Hey, can you just come help out?" Well, helping out turned out to be working there for 12 years.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
yeah, so it's and I tell myself and anybody that asks. I didn't see my life ending in, like, a trucking company, like, that was not the direction that I thought my life was going to go, but
Mhm.
God has other plans, and that was one of the biggest blessings because I didn't know that my dad had stage 4 cancer until we knew. So, by moving home, working there, and being able to work shoulder to shoulder with him, I got that extra time that I wouldn't have
Yeah.
had otherwise. Um, and then I got to work with my husband, and there were so many little blessings that kind of happened from that. But then when
Definitely.
he passed, it was definitely kind of this awakening where you really look at yourself and your life and you realize it is so short. Like, we are only here for such a short amount of time. So why not try something new? If it
Yeah.
doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But that's kind of where the ranch started, was just from a broken heart that really needed to be outside with nature.
Yeah. Well, I'm really sorry about the passing of your dad, and it's blossoming, it's blooming into like this beautiful story for you and your family. Um when your dad had passed, like were you already married? Did you already have any children?
Yes, so when we found out my dad was really sick, I was pregnant with our son, so that ended up being
Okay.
hard pregnancy, but we had our daughter.
Definitely.
We had 2 almost 2 kids of the 3 at that time, and yeah, we my husband and I got married in 2014, and my dad passed in 2018.
Okay. So, I mean, you made this leap with 2 children as well
Yes.
at the time because you had your 3rd and you were already on the ranch, right?
Yeah. Our
Um,
3rd, we definitely she wasn't a whoops. I hate that, like, every child is a blessing, but there's a huge gap between our son and our daughter, our 3rd baby, but it's been one of those cool opportunities where you're like I feel like as parents, we just get so in the grind of life that you totally just move on to the next. And
yeah.
so having a baby this many years later, you really enjoy the little moments a little bit more because
Oh,
there's
yeah. And you start to miss that, I feel like, baby stage, as crazy as it is, because it's a lot to go through.
I know, it's
Mm.
the hardest stage, but it's the best too.
Yeah, and it's so like you said, it's so short, like, and you don't realize that when you're first in it.
Right.
So, okay, so, I mean, did it just take a lot of prayer, to figure out, like, because were you guys just in, like, a regular house, suburb? I know you said you kinda had, like, a little farm backyard.
Mhm.
So did you just have, like, your own chickens, or, like, what did that kind of look like? And then, I mean, what was the final, like, "We're gonna make this jump"?
Sure. So when we lived in Western Washington, we'd lived in a couple houses before, cookie cutter neighborhood houses. Again, nothing wrong with that. That's just what they were. And then as soon as I found out my dad was sick, that's when it was like this weird feeling where I was like, I need to run. Like, I need out. I need space. I need air. It was
Yeah.
just this awakening, right? So we found this little house. It was on 10 acres and it was in a gated community alongside an airstrip. And so it's kind of funny, again, like looking back, thinking, okay, we're going to have this little, like, we never really thought it would be a hobby farm. I think we really always kind of envisioned ourselves turning it into some sort of a business per se.
Yeah.
But that's where we were. And so that's where we started. And we started with chickens and we had a couple goats. And then I remember after we started getting the Highlands, our neighbors, because there was no HOA, even though it was in a neighborhood, there was no HOA. And so the neighbors were a little bit alarmed, which rightfully so, right? I mean, you're in a neighborhood still alongside an airstrip and you have horned cattle just like in your yard. So
Yeah.
we started there and we grew to probably, I want to say we had like 17 animals by the time we were like, okay, this is not working out. Like, if they did get out, if they did run down the road, like on the airstrip, this could potentially be a really large liability or issue.
Yeah.
And then that's when we started looking to move. And I was set on we are moving to Montana. And this, mind you, was before Yellowstone, like before it was like well, it wasn't before the show Yellowstone, but it was before I think a lot of people thought it would be so cool to live in Montana. So the
Mhm.
prices were insanely affordable at that time. So my husband and I would get in the car and we would drive to Montana. We had a realtor over there. We were looking at properties. And at that time, we both were working full time. And we both kind of were in the mindset of we don't have enough animals to make this a full time income. Our jobs won't transition to Montana.
Mhm.
There was where we were looking was so remote that there were no jobs, more or less, that we could just jump into. So that dream kinda had to come to a reality that it was not going to work. So we kind of just said, "Okay, it's not our time. Let's buckle down and just figure it out where we are." And then it was like a random Zillow listing that my husband ran across for the ranch here, and so we drove out, we looked at it, and it was I still say driving down the driveway and staring at the house just felt like, "This is our house. This is where we belong." And then,
Mhm.
the rest is kinda history.
Wow. Yeah, and I definitely know that feeling, and I just feel like sometimes, that feeling comes when, like, God's aligning things for
Right.
you,
Yeah.
and kind of that feeling of, like, "This is it. This is meant to be."
Yeah.
So, how long have you guys lived on that ranch now?
So we purchased the house in 2021. We made the offer at the end of 2020. It was like December because I remember it was around Christmas time. It was freezing. Like Western Washington to Eastern Washington, the cold factor is far
Way
different.
different.
Yeah. So when we came here, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cold. We're going to freeze to death. But then January is when it was like official and it was kind of a fun little nod from heaven, if you will, because we signed for the house on the anniversary of my dad's passing, which was
Wow.
the day after my birthday. So those are like the little things where you're kind of like, oh, it just feels right, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, we signed the papers in 2021 and then we really financially made a gamble in that we were gonna keep our other house and we were going to, sink every penny that we had to our name into this one. Obviously, we had a loan, but, we drove back and forth between those 2 houses for the whole year. So every
Wow.
Sunday, we would we would be here and we would pack up our kids and we would head west, and then we'd work in the west side office Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then Wednesday after work, we would either pack a cattle hauler with trailer or we had a car trailer at the time and we would pack furniture or clothes or whatever and come east. And then we would work out of the east side office for a couple days and then have just Saturday here at the ranch to kind of unpack, unwind,
Wow.
do it all over again on Sunday. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
we
mean, that's a lot of hard work.
with 2 kids,
Like,
it was hard. Very
with
hard.
2 kids, yeah, to do that. I mean, yeah, that's a lot of courage, a lot of work,
Right.
a lot of juggling.
Yes.
And your kids were young, so they weren't in school or anything like that yet.
No, our daughter would have been in kindergarten, so we just did, like, a little homeschool program because there was absolutely no way she was gonna be in school, when we
Yeah.
were driving back and forth the whole time. So, yeah, they were little, really little.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So now you did that for the first year. And
Yes.
then when did you like officially move to the
So it
ranch?
was the end of October. We were like, "Okay, why are we even doing this?" I There was
Yeah.
a method to our madness, and it was that you can't just like a normal person, right? You list your house, you sell it, you pack up, and you move at the end. But we had
Mhm.
animals, we had tractors, we had equipment, like, there was so many things we
A
couldn't just
lot.
pack up and move that
Mhm.
fast. And yeah, there are extensions and things like that that you can work out, but we just didn't want the headache of, you find the perfect buyer and then you have to say, "Oh, actually we need to rent our house back for 30 days," or whatever. So, that's why we kind of decided to move slowly over to the ranch and then list our other house. But yeah, it was 10 out of 10 do not recommend. It was so, so hard, but it was yeah, the end of October we finally sold, so we had November, December of 2021 officially here, and, my family had sold the trucking company to another trucking company, so that company had a location over here in Eastern Washington, which again was just kind of a perfect situation, so we got to
Mhm.
jobs. Um, Again, that was like a huge thing for us of keeping our income because we knew as first generation ranchers, um we didn't have family land. We didn't have anybody guiding us or helping us in that way, which again,
Yep.
first generation versus if you're second, third, fourth, either way it's hard. Like
Yep.
there's no dig against someone who has generational land or whatever. But just the footing that we were at the time, we knew we needed to keep our income to be able to fund the ranch because it wasn't funding itself at that time.
Yeah. No, I mean, 1000%. And like, I mean, I feel like there's probably a lot of people that come across your page that are like, did you inherit this land? Or, is it generational? Even my husband was like, wow, like, how did they do this? I'm like, I don't know. We're going to find out when I talk to Brittany.
Yeah, and that's what I
um,
mean, like, we all kinda have different starting points,
oh,
and
yeah.
I wish everybody could have this, I really do, but with the way the world has changed, even in the last 4 or 5 years, things are so expensive now. I mean, if
Oh,
we
it's so different.
it's so different, and if we would be starting now versus at the end of 2020, we could not afford this place. So I
Yep.
think that's where it's also kinda hard is I want to tell people, "Oh, just jump in, you can do it too," but because the world has changed so much, it
Yep.
is hard to kind of just jump into it and get started when equipment costs more, land costs more, everything costs more, you know?
Yeah. And so, did you have anybody guiding you guys? Like, did you reach out to ranchers nearby or anyone who owned, or maybe where you were purchasing your Highland cows from? What did you use as like a guide or who did you use as a guide?
I no one. I mean, at
No
first,
one.
no
Yeah.
anybody at first, and that's what I mean, like, I wish I could bottle up that naive approach and kind of infuse it back into myself sometimes because
Yeah.
it was such blind faith, really, and again, we got very lucky because some things when you're first starting out, you don't know about and you need to know about whether it's animal husbandry or types of feed or pasture or. There's so many things that like really do play into the success of a ranch that are
Mhm.
worth knowing, but when you don't even know who to ask, then you don't really know where to go with that. So, when we first moved here, the previous owners were ranchers, completely different cattle, but cattle nonetheless. And they were kind enough to leave us a list. So they said, this is the person we buy our hay from. This is our vet. This is the person you call with this scenario. So they were really, I mean, they didn't have to do that, right? So they were very kind,
Yes.
giving us kind of the upper hand because we moved into a very small town. And that is one of the things where it's a little bit of could be a blessing and a curse. For us, it's been nothing but a blessing. But we had really good neighbors when we do have really good neighbors, and when we first moved in, um, people were nothing but kind and generous with information.
Mhm.
And then there was a women in agriculture meeting in Colorado that I went to in it was either I think it may have been in 21, and I met one of the most kind women ever there. And so, her name's Morgan, and they have a ranch in Wyoming, and she's like my phone a friend. Like, if anything is
Mhm.
wrong, I'm like, "Morgan, what am I gonna do?" And she's so, like, not no judgment at all, and is just kinda like, "Okay, here's your plan, and you need to do XYZ." And then obviously, just little by little as you do things, you kind of learn on the job more or less. And
Yeah.
I think that's what probably holds a lot of people back is feeling like, how will I ever get started if I don't know? And
Yeah.
my answer is always, that's okay. Like you can learn on the job. It's totally fine and acceptable. And yes, I understand you're dealing with lives, like animal lives, but lives nonetheless. And so you want the best for them. But sometimes you do have to learn through kind of the tough stuff, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel like, someone coming across your page or any rancher page, it looks so whimsically and, oh my gosh, the cows and, but it's a lot of hard work. You have to come across probably some challenges that you didn't think you'd face or want to face.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to it than just this. Wow, we live on acreage and the beautiful sunsets
Right.
and, having our children alongside us. Like
Right.
there's a lot.
There's a lot. And I think it's hard because people do say, "Oh, you don't share all the bad or you're not sharing the ugly side." And we try and share what we can, but I think there's also everybody's so sensitive now that by sharing some of the hard truths or the realities as that not every animal lives, right? By
Mhm.
sharing some of that, like you can share snippets, but if you share the whole thing, then it's like the opposite effect, right?
Yeah.
So like to try and find that happy medium or a balance of sharing it all without kind of getting raked over the coals for sharing too much? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a fine line where you try and dance around and figure out the best way that you can show things without making it seem like it's perfect all the time because it's definitely not. For sure it's not.
Yeah. Well, one of the videos, I guess it's kind of funny, the one that your son's like driving the ATV
Yeah.
and you're like what my husband sees on the cameras and you're and you have to get the Highland cow like unstuck.
I
I
know.
like died at that. I was like, I love this is hilarious. Like that's I mean, that's not an animal passing away or not making it, but like, it's like, hey, you probably were just getting breakfast ready or something. Then you're like, oh, the cow's stuck.
Yeah,
What do we do?
again. Yeah, there's never a dull moment. Like, that's one thing I
No.
say is there's always every season, you're like, "Okay, we've learned these lessons, we'll carry them forward," and there's always more lessons. Like, it's just never
Yeah.
ending.
So how would you say like it's enhanced family life for like your children? Like obviously like I mean they were younger when you lived in the neighborhood and now they're more grown, but like I mean life is drastically different. I mean, they
100%.
love it. Do they how are they handling it?
They I feel like a part of them doesn't remember life before the ranch. They were so
Okay.
little that the reality of living in a neighborhood, we didn't ever like we were working a lot. So it wasn't the, "Oh, let's have play dates with the neighbors" type thing. Like we weren't really in that chapter of life. So they kind of they don't remember that for sure. But then since moving here, it's just their normal. Like, we don't have high-speed internet. So, they're not my kids have never really been screen time kids. Yeah, when we were going back and forth, they would have an iPad in the car or something, but we don't do that anymore. So,
Mhm.
don't have the iPads except for on road trips. We don't really watch a lot of TV. Like, sometimes they'll watch a show here and there before school or after school. So most of their time is outside, and they really do enjoy it. I think it's funny because sometimes we'll have family come visit. They'll be like, "Let's go to the park." And I'm like, "We live at the park." Like, "What do you mean, let's go to the park?" It's a very different upbringing for our kids
Yeah.
where it's very imaginative. Like, they go outside, and my son has an entire dig site where he has his whole little tunnels and wood and all this stuff. And our daughter's so creative and she loves Legos and they're both really creative kids where they don't need a lot of entertaining. I guess that's the big
Yeah.
difference. But they love being outside with the cows or the horses. They have their own set of chores. They were the ones that were in charge of our bottle calves this summer. And they go to a really small private school that's primarily a lot of other farm and ranch kids from our area. So it's just all they know at this point.
Yeah.
And I love that for them because I didn't grow up
Same.
with it, you know? So it's I get to kind of live through them a little bit too because, like, I wish I would have grown up like this and had a little bit more hands-on experience at a young age. Because now there are still things I'm learning, but, they definitely have a very unique childhood.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. I mean, I would love for my daughter to like be able, like we feed the deer in our backyard. We live in a neighborhood, but we back up to like nothing and it's a creek. And so I'm like, let's go feed the deer. Like that's our thing. We go to the farm and fleet and we get the grain and the corn that we feed them. And, but I'm like, I love that. And, now she knows like when I say, let's go feed the deer,
Yeah.
she knows where to get the feed. We go and we bring it in the backyard. And I'm like, so I look at like your life and I'm like, wow, it's like that times like 1,000.
It's pretty fun. It really is. It is fun for sure.
Yeah, but you probably feel like, is that like you don't even there's not enough time in a day running the farm? I mean, there's has to be so much.
I think there's seasons. So just like anybody, right? Like there's
Yeah.
really hard seasons here and then there's seasons that are a little bit lighter. So right now we're in this light season where hay is finished. We've cut and baled all the hay. It's stacked. It's either for sale or, waiting for us to use this winter. When winter rolls around, when we bring all the animals home. So currently they're all on what we call summer pasture, where it's just grass and creek and they kind of feed themselves and have the water for themselves. We're not doing anything with them. That's when it's like the light season. So come winter, they'll all come home. We'll have to feed every day. We'll have to check water every day. And then you roll right into calving season, which is a very busy season because you're always out, you're checking, you're making sure they're okay, that nobody needs any help. And then that kind of, transitions again into summer. And then you have hay season where you're cutting and baling and it's super either late or early hours. But yeah, there's definitely ebbs and flows to ranch life where
Mhm.
you do get like these little pauses to breathe, but they're not for very long before the seasons change and you're kind of immersed in the next.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think such is life, right? Like we all have that in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so I just like love this. It's just so fun to talk about. Um, so do you have like your chickens and do you just use the chickens like to have like your eggs and then do you have just the Highland cows? Is that like the animals that you have on the farm or do you have other animals still?
Yeah, so we have 3 horses. It's more for just, like, pleasure riding. They don't work. They don't have real jobs. They're just for fun. Um,
Yeah.
we have the chickens, and we just have chickens that lay eggs. We've had meat birds before, but currently we just have chickens that lay eggs. And then we have 2 herds. So we have the Highland herd, and then we have a beef herd, and that is Hereford, and then we cross them with a Black Angus bull to get that black baldy. And so we run them completely separate. They run on 2 different pastures completely. And then at the end of the season, like right now, we should have already pulled our bull, but we didn't. So we'll pull the bull and then we'll put all the cows together and they'll finish out on summer pasture until we bring them home for the winter.
Wow. How many bulls do you need?
So I think, again, maybe we just don't know enough about it yet, but currently we just have 1 bull per herd. So we have the Black Angus
Okay.
bull for our Herefords, which that is still, like, fairly small because we just started that. And then for
Yeah.
the Highlands, it's kind of one of those interesting things, like, you learn little by little every single year, but we started with unregistered Highlands. They're purebred, but they're unregistered, just meaning they don't have paperwork, which like in the dog world, you can get like a registered. It's like the same thing basically. You get
Yeah.
paperwork that says this is a registered animal. So we have the unregistered that we started with. We sold a lot off of that, and then we have our registered herd. But we run a registered Highland bull for each. So not that it matters,
Wow.
because again,
Yeah.
you have an unregistered cow and a registered bull. You cannot register that calf. So we can sell that calf for less because it's an unpapered animal. It's still purebred, still just as good, but it doesn't have like that golden stamp that it's a, registered animal. So
Yeah.
we do run just one bull with our Highland herd, and we've, you know, knock on wood, we've never had any issues. Highlands are pretty notorious for covering really well. He gets his job done. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we just run one on each side.
Wow.
Yeah.
What what made you guys want Highland cows?
I I wanted something different. So, again, I think we started in, like, 2020 is when we got our first heifer, and I just they were s it wasn't that, like, big thing yet where everybody wanted, like, the mini Highlands, which we do not do minis.
Yeah. Everyone's like, they're so cute, they're fluffy. So that's why I'm like, oh, what drew you to Highlands?
Yeah, and I think it was kind of like, obviously, they're super cute, and that was a thing, but it wasn't as big back then, so even finding Highlands was super hard. But it was just the draw to being a little bit different. Growing
Hmm.
in Washington, there's dairy cows everywhere. Like, there are so many dairy farms over there, it's wild. And so driving by, like, fields of dairy cows every day, I just knew, well, I don't really wanna do that. And then at the time, I don't think we really knew that much about beef herds. So that's why we were like, "Oh, let's just do something different with horns," and again, being a little naive, you don't really realize how hard working with horned cattle, like, it's very hard. It's not as none of it's easy, but it's not as easy as, like, working our beef herd for sure.
Yeah. What makes it more difficult, you think?
Everything is slow, so you have to have a lot more patience. You definitely learn a lot about yourself when you're working cows because you almost feel like, "Okay, I need this to go perfectly." Like, you just wanna control the situation, and you cannot. Like, you just have to give it up and realize, like, I am not in control of this 1,000-pound animal that's going to totally annihilate me if I just do something wrong. But, this year was the first year where we were kinda like, "Oh, maybe we kinda know what we're doing, but it's just way harder with the Highlands because we had 2 weekends in a row where we worked our herds. So the first weekend we worked the Highlands, um, which just means that, like, we put them all in the corral, we make sure everybody's tagged, we vaccinate, we run them all through the chute, we get weights, and then we, like, had a whole spreadsheet that says, we have that spreadsheet running, but it's just more of a double check that this is the cow, this is the calf, birthdays, all the things. So you kind
Yep.
of work everything through to get it all organized before sending him off to summer pasture. So we did that, but it took 2 days to work the Highlands because their horns are so big that when they run through, it's called an alley. So it's basically like this very narrow um, alleyway that leads them into the squeeze. And then once they're in the squeeze, their head has to go through the front. So basically, it squeezes behind their head. And then you have access to their ears. You can open up panels and have access to their neck, their body, everything. So working them through the alley to the squeeze is you can only really do like one animal at a time because it has to be so slow. Because number one, they have feeling in their horns. So you don't want them to break their horns or get hurt in any way. So they have to kind of turn their head to run through the alley sideways to get their horns through. And then once they get to the squeeze, I mean, we can't afford it anyways, but we don't have a hydraulic squeeze because of the horns primarily. So you have to open it all the way so they see the light. They want to go to the light. So they come out and then they kind of like maneuver their horns out and then you have to shut the head gate before they just run all the way through. So you miss a lot of cows and calves because you have to time it perfectly.
Yeah.
but it's slow. You have to move so slow. Whereas with the Herefords, they don't have horns. So you can stack the alley and then one at a time, just kind of
Yep.
quickly move them through, which quick is best because it's less stress. But with the Highlands, sometimes you don't have a choice because of their horns.
Yeah. I guess, like you said, there's something you don't think about.
Yeah, and you don't, and I think that's the other big thing when people just wanna get into it, and that's totally fine. There's again, I can't be the judge of somebody just getting into it because that's what we did, but
Yeah.
you need certain things. You need a squeeze or your vet isn't gonna come out. So, yeah, you can trailer your animals to the vet, but do you have a trailer? And then when you need to feed, are you gonna go pick up the hay? Or are you gonna pay extra to have it delivered? So, do you need another trailer? Like, there's just so many things that
So many things.
you don't think about when you're like, "I want this cute little calf," but that cute little
Mhm.
calf grows up to be a big cow or bull. So, it's yeah, it's fun to have animals for sure, but being a responsible,
Yep.
animal owner is also really important too. And yeah, I we got the cart in front of the horse on how we started, but I still think that there is like, my message is still, "Hey," like, kinda take a pause a little bit and get a couple things in place before you bring that animal home just to make sure that, A, you're happy with your choice, and B, that, you can really properly take care of it.
Yeah. No, definitely. Motherhood in the farm. How has it been like running the farm? I mean, because now do you and your husband you run the farm full time? Like that's what you do or no?
No. So, actually, the farm like, the ranch we've gotten to the point where the ranch pays for itself, but it doesn't pay for us.
Okay.
So, my when I got pregnant with our daughter Teddy, I was let go from my job. So, that was a huge hit to our home to no longer have, like, this dual income home.
Yep.
But it all works out, right? That's the crazy thing is, like, it all works out. We live with a lot less, but that's okay. But my husband does still work. So, he's still in trucking. He works for a completely different company now in town, but he has to go to work every single day. So that is, again, where some of the seasons are a little bit more on my shoulders. Like, he does hay himself. I don't do anything with hay. I can help haul it off the field, but he's the one that's running the equipment during that season.
Okay.
So, I feel bad for him because he's working full time. And then when you're in hay season, you're very much paying attention to the weather. You're reliant on the weather exclusively. So you cut and you're praying to God it doesn't rain because you can't get the hay wet on the ground. And then we have alfalfa fields and grass fields. And with alfalfa, you can't bale until it's like a very specific dew level. So there will be
Hmm.
days where he works a full day. He'll go to bed for a little bit and he'll get up at like 1 a.m. when the dew level is perfect and he'll go bale. So
Wow.
he's really tired during hay season. But
Yes.
your calving season was a lot on me. And so, it's one of those things where you gotta put the car seat in the side by side and you go out and you check cows and I tell him he's never allowed to go on a work trip ever again because the one time he went on a work trip, I couldn't call him because of course he's in meetings and he was out of town and super busy. But we had like 4 cows calve that day that he left. The one day he left, there was, like, 4 cows that calved. I had to pull 1. I'd never pulled a calf before. And so, again, that's where it's like, you are
Oh my
learning.
gosh. Like you had to pull it out as it was delivering?
Oh, yes. So I'm like, "Okay," and I had no help at all. So Teddy's in the side by side, and I was like, "I see feet. I've been, like, timing it, like, this is not happening." So I had to push her because we have our field on one side and our corral on the other, which is kind of a bummer, but you have to run them across the driveway. So I had to go run around, shut all the gates, and then run her across the driveway, get her in the corral, run her through the squeeze, and then when she was in there, I had to pull. Let me tell you, that is hard. Like, no one tells you you see like, my husband's done it. He makes it look so easy.
Yeah, I've seen videos, I feel like, where you're like, "Oh, so cute," but like,
Comes right out? No. No, it does not. So,
no.
I'm pulling, it's slippery, it's, like, very hard. So, I'm, like, looking
Yeah.
for our, like OB chains, couldn't find them, of course. So I found like a backpack strap and I just wrapped it around the feet and just pulled. But yeah, he's never allowed to leave again because
Oh
they're
my god, that would happen. I feel like stuff always happens like that when the
always.
husbands travel.
Yeah, we had 2 sets of twins and then that calf I had to pull and it was nuts. I'm like, "Never."
My gosh, but you did it.
I did
But
it.
you did it. So, I mean, look at that. Like that has to give you like more courage, more
Right,
confidence. You did it. And with your baby in a side by side.
right. Yeah, so they are very much immersed in ranch life because they don't
Oh
really have
my
a choice.
gosh.
We don't have a babysitter.
Yeah.
We don't yeah, so she's in for the ride, that's for sure.
So how has like obviously like you said there's an age difference between is Teddy your youngest?
Yeah,
So
yep,
Teddy and then your other
our
two.
yep, our daughter's 9, she's almost 10, and our son just turned 8, and then Teddy is 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm 8 years apart from my brother. And like I love it.
Everybody says that. I was so
Yeah.
worried first, but everybody always says, "Oh, the age gap is nothing." And actually, it's been amazing because the kids, the first 2 are 18 months apart, and that was a really that was a rough chapter.
Oh yeah.
But now they help. So they'll help with her, and if I need to go out and do something, I have, like, little babysitters. I'm not leaving them
Yeah.
by any means, but, like, if I need
No, but like, hey, just watch for a second. Like
ah,
they're responsible enough to do that.
right, yeah.
That's awesome.
They're built different, that's for sure.
Built different. That's definitely for sure. How has it been raising like, being pregnant with Teddy on the farm? Obviously, she's, like, fully raised, on the farm versus, like, motherhood when you weren't on the farm.
Yeah, I think it was, again, completely different chapters of my life. So when I was pregnant with the first 2, I was working full time, didn't have any chores really. I mean, besides like your normal like laundry, cleaning, that sort of thing. But everything was close, right? Like the stores were right next to the house. And so you had the luxury of kind of oops, I forgot to grab this. Let's just go get it on the way home from work or something. Whereas now I don't have that. Like the closest grocery store is like almost 50 minutes away from us. Which isn't like far compared to some people, but it's not around the corner anymore.
For sure.
So I think it's a little bit different because I missed out a lot on my first 2 kids because I was working so much. So now, obviously, I'm still working in some capacity, like as far as the ranch goes, but Teddy's always with me. Like, I've never had that experience where I get to bring her everywhere. Like, if I'm doing chores outside, she's with me. If, we're in the tractor, she's with me. There's those sort of things that's kind of a unique experience for me, even being a third-time mom, because I I didn't have that the first 2 times around. So, it's
Mhm.
kind of a new little element to motherhood that I'd say makes me really appreciate the beginning stages so much. I mean, like, everybody loves a baby, right? But you forget how hard it is to have a baby.
Mhm.
So sometimes nap time is in the side by side, it's in the tractor, it's on the go, it's not scheduled. I think that's the other thing is sometimes we have to let go of the schedule element that we may have had the first few times around. And she is not a good napper and she's not a good sleeper at night. So we're doing things a lot more tired. But I love it. It's almost like a little reminder of why I wanted to be a mom so much. I get to kind of like relive the chapters I feel like I kind of rushed through the first 2 times. I get to really experience it again.
Yep.
So it's really special for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And I would say, yeah, I would agree with you. Like I only have one daughter right now.
Mhm.
And we've waited. She'll be 2. So it's not like there will be a huge, well, I don't know if there'll be a huge age gap. We don't know till we try.
Sure.
But um I think that way. I'm like, I feel like if I would have had another one any sooner, I would have been rushing it for me personally.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I really want to enjoy it.
Yes.
And still enjoy like my daughter growing, being able to be there for her, but also being okay with like going through the pregnancy season, going through the newborn
Yeah.
stage. And like you said, it's hard. I mean, the no sleep, like, that's a potential,
Oh, for
I
yeah.
mean, and every baby's different.
Yeah.
Um, but eventually they will sleep.
Yes,
So, we
eventually.
don't know when, but eventually it does eventually come, and then your whole world changes again.
Yes,
Um,
and that's true. It's a constant change, and that's where we just try and enjoy the little moments as we have them because we know they're not gonna last forever. Forever. Good, bad, or indifferent, it just quickly keeps moving, you know?
yeah. So with, like, posting, did you just start, like, sharing farm life and then just, like, the following just, like, happened over time?
Yeah.
And I know you share, like, a lot of different things. Obviously, you share the ranch life, you share your recipes, which I also wanna talk about. Um, so what kind of made you wanna share the journey?
So we started I started our ranch account when we first bought our heifer. So it's kind of been a little bit of I don't know. I just kind of wanted to share I wish I would have shared more, to be honest. Like I feel like I didn't really share how much effort it took to kind of get going, but my account didn't really, I mean like if you will, take off until we were already here and kind of like past that first starting point. So,
Mhm.
not that it would have mattered at all anyways, but I we started the account like when we first started the ranch. And then just little by little I think it's grown, it's changed obviously. I feel like I have these like times where I wanna share it all, and then other times where I'm like, I could throw my phone away tomorrow and be totally content with it. But then there's the little bits and pieces that are business related. You know, we do sell our calves, and a lot of people that buy our calves follow us online. So there's a little bit of a sales element to it, even though I will be the first person to say I am not a salesman. I hate
Mhm.
being a salesman. It is not my calling. I don't love it. But there is little pieces of that where you're like, I gotta keep it going because we do have a business.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I love sharing different aspects of our life. And I know sometimes people are like, oh, that doesn't work. You need to kind of like have a niche. But I don't know. I just kind of don't care sometimes. I'm like, I'll share recipes when I want to. I'll share, the ranch life for sure. And then more recently, I feel like um, I don't hide the fact that I have kids, but I don't really share them as much anymore. Um, I heard somebody recently say, like, they're not the like, my kids are not my content, but the fact that I am a mom, like, they're there, but they're not the focus. And so I kind of
Mhm.
shifted a
I like
little.
that.
Yeah. Like I want people to know I'm a mom. I want people to know that I have kids, but I don't want every piece of my child to be known either. So yeah, we don't show faces anymore. We used to, and it's more of a recent shift. So it's there's still content of our kids out there, but I think I'm just trying to be a little bit more intentional about how I share them.
Yeah.
Um, just
Yeah, like,
for the
they're not, like, props. Like,
right.
they're it's this is their life, and, like, yeah, you're just the message, that you're trying to get across is, like, this is your day-to-day life, and you are a mom of 3, and you have children, but
Yeah.
it's not, like, about them. This
Correct.
is about you and your life that you're
Correct.
sharing.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I totally get that, and I definitely can relate to you when you say sometimes you just wanna throw your phone out because
Yeah.
you do, like, sometimes, like, I mean, I love social media. I mean, for the fact that, like, look, like, I'm connecting with you, I'm talking with you, like, I'm getting to share, with listeners who are interested in more about your journey, like, sharing
Yeah,
that with them and allowing
sure.
you to share and all this stuff. But then, like, there's times when you're scrolling and you're like, well, at least I scroll. I mean, you have a lot more going on than I do. But I'm like, "Why?" Like, I could be reading a book or I could be sleeping earlier. I don't know. There's just so many other things that I'm like, that I could be doing that would probably benefit me more.
Yeah, we all have that. I mean, that's why it's so apparent to us as adults of like, "Hey, if
Yeah.
I'm lost in this, then I don't want my kids to be, having this
Yeah.
constant entertainment." And I think that's where a lot of parents now are kinda like, "Hey, let's cut the screens because it's not giving you the freedom to be artistic or creative or use your imagination." And like me as an adult, I even feel that. Like if I'm just scroll,
Yeah.
scroll, don't feel, compelled to create, which I think that's a part of why I really loved getting into social media is I love creating, whether it's creating videos that you're editing together or taking photos or there's always this little artistic element that you can implement into your content that I absolutely love. But I am
Yeah.
definitely the person that can get stuck in just the scroll. And so I have to be very have to be a little bit rigid sometimes with even my own schedule, like we get up, we make breakfast, we spend time with the kids and then send them to school. And then I come home, I do a Bible study, I work out, I get ready for the day. Like I'm very rigid in that way until something goes wrong and then your schedule is out the window and you have to be okay with that. But
Yeah.
you have to be very conscious of eliminating the doom scroll or I'll get lost in it too, for sure.
Yeah, and then you just think of, like, what you could have done with that time.
Right. Yeah,
Um, which yeah, I definitely can relate to that, and especially when you're a mom, because our time is limited.
it is.
For
Valuable.
ourselves, to get stuff done in our home,
Right.
for time with our husbands, like, sometimes at night, I'm like, my husband and I, this is our time to connect, and here we're both, like, scrolling, and I'm like, "This is horrible."
I know.
Um,
I have that. But yeah, being intentional is so important because you get to the end of your doom scroll, like you said, you're like, I could have learned how to sew during that. But, you just kind of like get to the point where what does it matter? Like if
yeah.
you're giving up something to be doing that. So,
Yes.
yeah, what are you giving up? If it's time with your husband or your kids, then it's not worth it? So, but
Yeah. No, I
said,
agree. How has, like, marriage shifted for you guys? Obviously, lots to juggle. How do you give, like, yourselves time? I mean, you're not only, like, married, but you're also a working team now
yeah,
by owning a business together.
right. And I think it's fun because Keith and I have never known anything different. So we went to college together. I met him when I was 18, right? So I feel
Mhm.
like I've spent the better part of my life with him. Then when we moved back to Washington from California, we worked alongside each other. So we've kind of always had that element of working with each other. We
Mhm.
never like at the company, we didn't work in the same department, but our departments kind of coincided. So um because people always joke, I could never work with my husband. I'm always like, I could never imagine not working with my husband. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I love it. I absolutely love this season that we're in. Although, you always wish it was a little different. I wish he wasn't working a desk job. I wish he was here with me all day and that we could get a lot done faster. That's for sure. But we really enjoy being together. Do we do like consistent date nights? No, town's not that close and he and I are both really we don't want to give up our time with our kids either. Like I know there needs to be special time for your husband or your wife that is apart from your children. But I think we've also realized like our kids are only little for so long that even
Mhm.
thinking of okay, lining up my brother to babysit or something like that, you're like, man, that's just like so much headspace that we'll just spend the time here. And we're very strict on bedtime. So our kids have what we call lamp time. So it's 7 o'clock at night. They go into their rooms and they have lamp time. So no overhead lights. They just have their lamps on and they can play with Legos. They can read books. They can do whatever they want until it's 8 o'clock. Then 8 o'clock, lights out. It's bedtime. Um, and so that's when we kind of get our time together. But also, I mean, like again, during hay season, I'll go ride buddy seat with him, or, there's little times where we can like fit in time with each other.
Yeah.
We're in this season of life where it's not easy, right? Like you definitely have to make the effort. Um, but yeah, it's a fun one. I really can't imagine doing it any other way. Like once we've been in it as long as we have, I can't imagine my life any different. And I think it has blossomed into this from a place of again, like that's all we really ever knew was being with each
Yeah.
other. Which is kind of cool too that it's grown into what it is for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's beautiful. I think everyone has their own way of, how to keep their marriage going and
Yeah,
strong. And I mean, you guys are at the end of the day working toward probably an even bigger goal than where you're at right now.
yeah,
And hopefully one day he won't need to work that desk job and
right,
you guys will be on the ranch together. And then it's like, wow, okay, now we're together. And if you look how far you've come
right.
already,
Yeah,
I mean, that's what you're working towards. So, you're trading the date nights
yeah,
for creating this life, for you and your family.
yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, that's super beautiful. And then about the recipes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you make a lot of stuff from home? And I know you said the grocery store is like 50 minutes away. So is that part of it? Or do you just like stock up and you like to make stuff from home? I think a lot of your stuff's like gluten free as well.
Yes. So everything is gluten free. In 2017, we found out that my husband had celiac, which was a huge shift for me. And sometimes I'm like,
Yes.
thank God that you have celiac because we'd be eating out every night. Because that's how I grew up. I grew up in a house that nothing was really homemade. It was either boxed or fast food or, and no digs at my mom, but that's just the way
Yeah.
it was. So then when we found out he was sick, I remember when the doctor kind of came out and told me, "Hey, like we found he for sure has celiac." And he was like, "If you don't throw out all the gluten in your house, you will kill your husband." I was like, "Oh my gosh." This was during the same time that my dad was
Wow.
actively passing away.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Okay, like game on." So we went home and you open your cupboards and you're just like, everything
Mhm.
poison, like you're like, "I worked hard for this food and I have to throw it away." Like that just seems it just was so jarring to be honest.
Yeah.
So for somebody that had no idea how to cook, I literally bought cookbooks and just started there. So I just started making recipes with Kristen Cavallari's books because they were gluten free and dairy free, and he had to be both at that time. And little by little, I kind of grew to love it. And then when we moved here, we were the furthest we had ever been from a grocery store. So we go to Costco maybe like once a month, and we really stock up on things, bulk things. And
Mhm.
then we'll go to the regular grocery store like every couple weeks or something, but it's my least favorite thing. So if I can push it to the max to not have to go to the grocery store, I will.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, most things are from scratch. Like the kids have a couple little like gluten-free pre-packaged snacks from Costco that they'll throw in their lunches. But they always have leftovers from dinner for lunch. And yeah, I mean, we make bread. We every dinner is usually from scratch. I think the more you get into it of like really reading ingredients and things like that, the more you just are fueled to make things yourself because you just
Yep.
realize that so much you can only do so much. Like there is a limit, I'd say, of my focus where I'm not willing to be like this crazy person where I think that every single thing needs to be perfect and everything is homemade and I can't ever do X, Y, or Z. Like, I'm not an extremist in that way, but to the best of my abilities, I try and feed my family most things from scratch.
Yeah. No, I definitely can understand that. And yeah, I mean, I wasn't diagnosed with celiacs, but I have like an autoimmune where they basically said if I eliminate gluten, it can definitely help. And I think that's for a lot of different things like
Oh,
inflammation. There's so many different reasons why I feel like a lot of people can actually benefit from it.
definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, you don't realize all that gluten's in, like even my mom was just diagnosed with something like an autoimmune. And I'm like,
Yeah.
just remove the gluten. I'm like, and even if you do it for like 80% of the time, like you'll notice a difference.
Yeah.
And I'm like the breading of chicken nuggets, like just like so many different things that
Oh, like,
like you don't think or sauces have gluten in them. Like you're like, yeah, and like you said, you can go down this dark rabbit hole of what's in the food.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that's like anybody that's wanting to make any switch, right? Like, again,
Yeah.
or you're trying to be a better cook or change up your diet in any way, shape, or form. It does take time. Like you can't
Yeah.
I feel like anybody who is venturing into whatever, just give yourself the grace that there is a learning curve for sure because it's not what you've always known. So, yeah, because you can really get down on yourself about ingredients or whatever because it's not just food, right? It's in toothpaste, laundry detergent, cleaning
Yep.
solutions. Like it's literally everything. So, I remember like way back when we started making little shifts, I would just pick a room at a time. Like we're going to focus on the laundry room this month and I'm going to try a new detergent or something like that and then just kind of like little by little so that it's like bite-sized pieces instead of the whole
Yeah.
pie because then if you go for the whole pie, I feel like your success rate is probably not as high either.
Yeah, and then it also is just like a new mind shift, I feel like too, because you're like, oh, like you might be prone to like buy, you might go to the store and be like, oh, this is what I used to buy. Wait, I'm doing something different now. I need to get this. Because that's where I find myself. Like I find myself with like trying to add like I'm similar, like
Yeah,
changing certain things that you're using.
right.
Um, you're just like, wait, where do I start and how do I make sure that I keep up with this?
Right. And like even good things you find that you switch to, then you read something later where they changed an ingredient and you're like,
Yeah.
back to square one again. But yeah,
I
it's
know.
always something.
Yeah, with like so with you learning to cook, did you just start like implementing like recipes that then you're like, okay, we'll rotate this out each week? Or just like dressings that you would make, like, okay, we can utilize this a few times this week. So I'm gonna make like this dressing, or like, I guess what was your approach to with that?
So before when we found out my husband was sick basically with celiac and I had to just totally eliminate things, that was more like survival mode, I would say, but we were still living near stores and I think again, like back in that time period, it was more of like oh, this box of whatever is gluten free. So we can have it instead of I can make what's in that box.
Yeah.
And then when we moved here and things were less accessible, that's when it was more about can I make that? Like, that's how my mind had shifted of, I'm either buying a prepackaged gluten-free, but prepackaged something, or I can figure out how to make it myself and save money and time by, like, just having the ingredients in my pantry versus the box itself. So
Yeah.
that was my mind shift was salad dressings. I think a lot of times if you read the ingredients in a salad dressing, it's disgusting, right? So you're kinda
Hmm.
like, "Oh, this is dumb. Like, why am I spending even $8 or whatever it is on something that's gonna sit in my fridge for a really long time, unfortunately, and just, like, do nothing for my body, right? So, like,
Yep.
how can I make that myself? And then, yeah, you do use it throughout the week, but I am the worst at like, my husband would be the person that's like, "Every Monday, it's meatloaf. Every Tuesday, it's tacos." Like, he would have a set schedule of dinners, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "I can't." I literally would get so bored of that, so I'm always on Pinterest trying to find recipes, and I think where I've gotten now is I won't search gluten-free recipes, I'll just, like, look at recipes, and then I'll just know I can make anything gluten-free, and then we just adapt ingredients and make it our own, but,
Yeah.
yeah, living in the middle of nowhere really, like, puts things into perspective where you just realize I can make that. Like, I don't have to buy it to have it. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
it
I
came
definitely I'm on that journey. I mean, I live close to the store, but I'm like on that journey. And for those listening, go try Brittany's ranch dressing. That
oh,
is something that I actually made this week, and it was delicious. I was telling Brittany it was so good, so easy to make. It literally took like less than 10 minutes.
yeah,
I think the hardest part is like having the ingredients. I think that's always the challenge for me is like, okay, what ingredients do I constantly need to keep in my pantry that I
right.
know I can make different stuff with? I think that's where
100%.
I'm at with it.
Yeah, and I think, like, the more you make things, the more you're like, "Okay, so when I go to
You just
Costco,
know what to have.
yeah, I'm gonna bulk buy X, Y, and Z because I need it, like, all the time or whatever."
Yeah. Um, well, I guess is there anything that you would like to share, like based on like, I guess when women or moms reach out to you,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's like one question that you get a lot or just like pieces of advice that they're asking for? Is there something like at the top of your mind that you can think of that like you might get a lot of messages on that you want to like be able to
Sure.
share?
Yeah, I think a lot of moms will message me and say, "Ugh, how do you do it all?" And it's like, "Oh, I don't." Like I wish. And that's where I think sometimes social media has failed us in a way that we've gotten to a place where we are really good at editing our day together where it looks like it was a fairy tale, but you missed the fact that like my kids had a meltdown or I had a meltdown or my living room is a disaster, but I just didn't angle my camera that way. And yeah, shame on me for sure. Like again, for kind of putting that storyline out there, but I think all of us are going through different things, whether it's a season of overwhelm and we're moms, right? Like we feel like sometimes we have to put on that happy face and just kind of push through it, like on to the next. And so I think for anybody that's moms, dads, whoever, like it's not a picture perfect world, right? Like, yeah, we're all chasing the same thing at the end of the day. Like, we're just working to be the best person that we can be for our families or whatever. But it's not picture perfect. So we don't have it all figured out. And realizing that, like, we don't have to have it all figured.
Mhm.
We can give ourselves
Mhm.
a little grace. And I think someone who's a recovering perfectionist, I even have to tell myself sometimes, like, it's okay that you're not where you want to be, but look where you were, like look how far you came. And we all have that. Like we all have chapters we've gone through that we need to remind ourselves, like, hey, we did a good job. So I think
Yeah.
for anybody that like looks in online at someone's life, just remember it's it's just Instagram, it's just TikTok, it's just whatever. It's not always, yes, there are elements of reality in that for sure, but like don't feel bad if your life doesn't look like that. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, or like, I mean, it's in a way, like you said, when you create content, you like to maybe portray it in a certain way, create a story with it, create a beautiful work of art with it. And
Right.
so, with the sunset, with feeding of the cows, like you can create this beautiful story, which is your life, but it's not everything. It's not everything that went on that day.
No. Yeah. And there's so much tragedy and heartache that's going on all the time. Like we're always, and that's where sometimes I feel like I want to carve out like a little peaceful place on my page where yes, of
Mhm.
course there's horrible things happening all the time. And we do acknowledge that, right? But it's not I just yeah, I think my goal is to make people feel calm when they come to my page. And so, yeah, I'll share like snippets of like the hard stuff, but it's not something I really want to dwell on either because we all have our own stuff that we have to work through and we don't always want to be consumed by that either.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I think your page is definitely giving that vibe. I think that's why I love watching your stuff. And I wanted to reach out and I wanted to be able to talk to you and share more of your journey because it is a beautiful journey. And now that I've talked to you, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, not that I didn't have respect for you, but like, you guys have worked very hard to be where you are.
We
And
yeah,
I think it's beautiful. And yeah, and you need, just to, not that you're not embracing that, but like definitely embrace that because you guys have worked very hard to get to where you are. And like I said, your journey is not over. You're still building your story.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying. We really are.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Brittany, for everything that you shared, for coming on the podcast, and taking the time to just talk and share everything. It's
Thanks for
been
having
really, really cool to hear your story.
Thank you. Well, thanks for giving me the space to share it.
Yes, absolutely.